A new report from the government has suggested that pupils should take fewer GCSE exams to reduce the amount of stress and improve mental well-being of pupils in England. Students currently sit between 24 and 31 exams during their GCSEs, which is more than most other Western countries. And exams can, of course, be really stressful for the entire family. I mean, you know about that right now, Eileen, of course. It just takes over everybody's life to a certain extent. It can be a very, very stressful time.
Oh, yeah, my daughter started working in the kitchen, took over the whole communal area, and we were all sort of tiptoeing around. But then you do, because you want them to do well and you don't want to stress them out further. But, yeah, my daughter's just finished doing A-level mocks, and we're now going into the mocks because she wants to get her grades to go to uni. Saying that, I've also got another daughter who has just been doing her mocks, and it's just been a different scenario. They both handle exams in very different ways, which makes me think, well, look, some people, they thrive in exam situations and circumstances, but not everybody. And in so doing, putting the pressure on one child on that one day, sickness aside, stresses aside, worries aside, you are setting them up, in many cases, for them to fail. And for those who do excel in those circumstances, which is fantastic for them, I would hate to take away from how hard they're working by that, you know, when people say, oh, well, exams don't matter. They do. If you want to become a brain surgeon and go to some unis, they absolutely do. So how can we make sure that each child is treated as the individual they are in a scenario where it doesn't really necessarily cater to those circumstances? And then you're not even thinking about the neurodivergence, of which we know there's going to be a fifth of students in 2 years' time in every classroom. Some children aren't going to excel in those circumstances, so you're setting them up to fail. I just think the way that we have set our school system up doesn't service where they're going.
The one-size-fits-all just clearly doesn't.
Some are going to go the trade route, amazing. Some are going to be brain surgeons. They're going to need those grades. But to bundle them all into one exam hall and then give them the same test, you're testing extremely different children in one way. And then you're surprised that some people don't flourish. It makes no sense whatsoever.
But then to try and to try and overhaul the system that we do now know for all of these years, that's the difficulty, obviously, for any educational board. And when a lot suggesting that it should be just coursework, that's the way to do it.
Well, I think one of the issues is that every time there's a new government, you know, education is the second after the NHS department they turn to with radical new plans to change everything. And I think that's really, really hard for schools and for those involved in education more generally, you know, because it's costly as well to reimagine it all. But there's no question that our system really feels like it penalises kids in a way, you know? I mean, the jeopardy of doing those exams and your whole life's experience, perhaps, being dependent on whether you had a good day or a bad day, whether you had a night's sleep or whatever, just seems completely unjustified, especially in a world where we understand more and more about mental health and about different individuals and their experience. So I don't really know why we don't just opt for something like the International Baccalaureate, which is much more to do with assessment. You know, a proportion of it is judged by exams, because obviously you don't want kids to step out into the world without having had any pressure put on them, because the rest of our lives is about, you know, pressure being put on us, whether it's a job interview or whatever. But it's got to be proportionate, doesn't it? And it's got to take into account every child's ability and experience. So I think that I mean, the other thing is, of course, that there's so much that isn't covered by the curriculum now. It's just madness, you know, climate change, the science around that, you know, so many subjects that these kids are going to have to deal with in life to come that aren't covered. You know, it's back to the 3 Rs or whatever, you know. I think they're actually talking about getting rid of Michael Gove's E back, which was much more focused on those. But, you know, it definitely does need a radical overhaul, but just do we have to have one every single time there's a new government? And isn't there a way of perhaps having an independent commission, people who really understand education, who can perhaps lay out a 10-year plan or a 15-year plan that is achievable and doesn't mean we have to go backwards and forwards the whole time?
Exactly. It's just, again, a lot of children are just not kitted out for it. I used to feel sick doing exams, like physically sick.
I couldn't even spell it. Yeah, and I mean, the pressure from such an early age. I remember Kira coming home when she was like 13, and they were constantly, every day, saying to her, what do you want to do when you leave school? What do you want to do? And she used to get so stressed because she was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't even know what I want to wear later. Like, well, I don't know what career I want yet. So I think the pressure, even from that age, and also the whole mock exam things. So they go through all this stress of mock exams, which actually don't mean anything. They're just giving them an idea of where they are. And, you know, I ended up saying to Kira, well, do really bad in your mocks and then it'll just be an improvement in your main ones. I stopped stressing because they're not going to mean anything except to the school. And also, you know, I just hated seeing the stress she was in when she had no idea at that point what she wanted to do.
But also, what employer has ever asked for your GCSEs?
Never.
And
All
if
my
they
kids
do,
have had
then
proper
they must
jobs,
be a bit...
and they've never been asked about.
No,
unless you want to go into hospital or nursing or
accountancy. If you want to be a doctor, you are going to need those GCSEs to get the A levels. But again, that's where those children get penalised, and it's not fair on them either. So it has to be more flexible because our workforce is flexible, the children are flexible, but one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, so if a kid knows what it wants to do, if a child comes to you and goes, I want to be a brain surgeon, I want to be an accountant, a solicitor, whatever,
then
they should go, OK, so you need to be in this group. But the kids that don't know shouldn't have to go through the same
But you can
pressure.
still get grades at GCSE level without having to do an exam that's as pressured as that is, which is set up like an A level, which is set up as something that's really going to tell the world what you can do in your future. And yet you're 15, 16 years old.
There are some children who are geared in that direction, and if they want to be doctors, then suddenly you want your brain surgeon to have had straight A's. You know, you're going to want them to be the best of the best.
But their coursework is going to matter as much as the exam at the end of it.
Not necessarily, because it's a high-pressure situation. If you are in theatre, that is a high-pressure situation, whereby if you're a
that's only
tradesman,
part of being a brain surgeon.
100%, 100%. But we've also got children who need the flexibility and understanding. Maybe even the time constraints need to waver slightly without having to prove you're neurodiverse, or you need those extra measures put in place. So we do absolutely need someone to look at the educational system as it stands at the moment, and not just as in the last government say, oh, we need more maths and we need more English. No, we don't. We just need more understanding that the skill set that the kids that they're going to need in the future have to have a little bit more of they have to be more
flexibility,
malleable. They have to be
and
flexible.
also life skills. We should be teaching them life skills.
Yeah, and like I've missed tech colleges.
Yeah.
That was the last time you could get a good plumber.
Should be absolutely...
Transferable skills.
Yeah.
You need transferable skills.
I couldn't agree
Some of these
more.
jobs don't even exist yet.
Yeah.
We're preparing children for a landscape that we don't even know. We didn't even have tech when we were growing up, and we're expected to work in this remit. So transferable skills are the way to go.
Yeah.
Good her, isn't she?
Very, very, very good. She should be
What she said.
What she said, yes.